Guys, you know how much I love barbell apparel, and I've completely upgraded my wardrobe with their basics, and people tell me I've never looked better. My current favorites are the Stealth hoodie and the straight fit athletic jeans, but you can't go wrong with any of Barbell's clothing. Their clothing is built to fit athletic bodies, and I can't express what a difference it makes in both comfort and in fit. You gotta try it out. They back their products with a 365-day, no questions asked guarantee. Barbell's training gear and casual wear is built to power whatever workouts, work days, and adventures demand. Go to barbellapparel.com/Chael. Do it right now, and you'll see a collection of my favorite items I've posted, and you can score some great deals, or just click on the link below. It's a big deal that when Conor came out last week and said, I'm back into the USADA pool, it was a big deal that he was not trolling, jerking our train, because he's only got so many bullets to fire. Now, we can accept not getting hard facts from Conor McGregor all the time. We can accept that from anybody. Think of Denzel Washington or Mark Wahlberg or Ed Norton or Tom Cruise. I think of some of these actors. We don't expect them to always tell the truth. We know that Tom Cruise is not a underground agent with 007 status. Like that doesn't have to be completely accurate all the time. You're allowed to entertain us. You're allowed to storytell. But there's other times where we got to know that this is straight. Look, are you coming back or not? When and who the opponent is and the weight class. Like, we can figure some of those things out later. But if we're going to go and discuss the opponent and the weight class and the win, we can't do any of those things if it isn't true from Jump Street that you're coming back. Just for example. So Conor McGregor thrives and survives off of people like us. People that find him interesting. And then we'll go one step further, which is to publicly discuss him. If that comes to a screeching halt, none of the rest matters. You can blow all the coke you want if nobody talks about it. You go beat up all the men you want. Nobody talks about it. You win all the championships and have all the games. If nobody talks about it, it doesn't matter. All the records go away, and now you become an interchangeable mediocrity like the rest of them. And Conor has so clearly distinguished himself because he's got to a point in his career, the hardest spot, the final step in have I made it, have I done this? It's not the money, it's not the opportunity, it's not the fight, it's not the organization. The final step. Does the outcome of my last match matter? If the answer to that is no, you have made it to the rarest, the unicorn spot of MMA careers. I'm getting ready to fight. I'm going to make a pile of money. Everyone's going to be interested. The media is going to come out. The arena will fill up, and I will be the last fight of the night, meaning I'm the main event. If those things are true, and the outcome of your last fight, whatever it was, cannot detour those statements from being true, you've made it to the final and ultimate step. So I share that with you because that's where Conor's at. But it's still a tag team issue. He can say, I don't count on anybody, I don't listen to anybody, I run on Conor time, I do my own thing. He can say all of those things. They will remain true as long as we continue to cover him. The second the coverage goes away, he's done. And I bring that to you because it would have been a big deal. It wouldn't have been the end of the world, I'm sure, right? That would be a very deep end, and we wouldn't have gotten there, but it would have been bad to a degree had he not entered the USADA pool and just said that he did. Because now we can't trust him. That's not about your opponent. That's not about promotion. That's not about selling tickets. That's not about getting everybody's attention so you can steer them to a different product like a great salesman will do, and he is a great salesman. This is different. That's personal, and it's what we call a material fact. Well, he told the truth. And there's a couple of headlines going around. So let me just clear this up for anybody that saw a headline but didn't read it. Dana White was asked about this last night. And Dana said, no, Conor's not in the pool. Conor said, I submitted my paperwork, I'm in the pool. Dana clarifies and says, no, he's not in the pool. Well, hold on. If you just read that headline, you might be a little confused by the last 3 minutes of me speaking to you. Conor filled out the paperwork and submitted it. In Conor's mind, that means he's in the pool, which it might as well mean that. Because when that paperwork works through and processes, whether that's 10 minutes later or 10 days later, he won't actually know. As soon as he turns it in, he needs to be ready and understand that he is eligible for testing. Have his whereabouts down, have his system cleared out, whatever that might entail. So that's what Conor did, and Conor believed that that meant that he was in the pool. Dana didn't change this. Dana only clarified to say Conor did his part. We now have a part in terms of getting this processed, and that will be done by Monday, which Dana then clarified again to say, hey, don't hold me to Monday. I just mean it'll be done very soon. For sure, in the next week. Okay, great. I just wanted to clear that up for anybody that might have seen a headline. So Conor's in the pool. And John Morgan asked the very obvious question to Dana. He said, look, 6 months in the pool. So what USADA's saying he's got to do. And that happens to line up perfectly with UFC 300. And Dana didn't touch it. Had a real stoic look. No one's going to mind if Conor's on 300, but it wouldn't mind if Conor was on 299 or 302. Like Conor's a sellout. And wherever Conor goes comes a main event. I do not believe that they will put Conor on UFC 300 because I believe they will close out the evening, meaning the main event will be a world title fight. But I do want to speak to the issue that Dana got asked this, and Dana just said, hey, look, we got the paperwork in. That's right. We can check that box off. Now we got to process it. We check that box off. Then they got to go test him. Then we got to get a bout agreement. We got to get that paperwork. We got to get that back. We got to do a media tour. There's a lot of things. I'm going to do none of them. None. Not looking at 300, not looking at anything. I'm going to go right in order. Paperwork is now in our possession. That's where we're at. And I've respected that answer. I think that we can all understand that. But I do also believe that this looks very good for Michael Chandler. I mean, Chandler has showed an incredible patience. And it's not as though, as we're over here and we're discussing it, Chandler, you got to move on. Chandler, you got to play it this way. Chandler, you got to do something different. Hey, Chandler, he's not in the USADA pool. Hey, Chandler, they don't even have a weight class. Like, while we're doing all of those things, don't think for a moment that that isn't exponentially exemplified within Chandler's emotions, within his family. You think his wife isn't asking him when you go back to work? When's training camp? When you think his coaches aren't asking? His managers aren't asking? Everybody that's in on the business? Of course they are, sure. But he stayed very patient. And now it looks as though he could be within 6 months of that becoming a reality, which by the time you do a training camp and a media tour, right? I mean, that feels like tomorrow almost. And I am rather confident in telling you it's going to be Michael Chandler. I think that there's some wonderful talks about Nate Diaz. I mean, if Nate Diaz was going to come back and it's only this, you could probably see some scenarios where there might be some looking around to do. Michael Chandler did another interesting thing last week, which is he called for another 170-pound fight. Well, it was against Nate Diaz. And I bring that to you because the last two guys that Chandler has attempted to associate himself with, Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, are both 170-pounders. So I do wonder, is Chandler signifying to us, I am now a 170-pounder? And I don't have that clarity, but I would like it a lot. I think Chandler's very meaningful at 155 pounds. I think Chandler matches up well with Islam Makhachev, not for nothing. Chandler had a referee looking in. He was 1 punch and 1 second away from being pulled off Charles Oliveira and having the belt put around his waist. I mean, Chandler matters, right? We can agree on that. Chandler can beat anybody, sure. There's a handful of guys that can beat him too, but he can beat anybody. But to get to that fight, to get to the Islam fight, to get to a Justin Gaethje style fight, to be in that elite conversation, you have to beat the next best thing. And Michael Chandler doesn't sound as though right now he's even wanting to compete with them. And I'm okay with it. Michael Chandler wants to fight Nate Diaz. I'm in. I think that Chandler is a legend. I also think he's a veteran. Some of you don't. But that's only because you didn't follow his early career. I had this same feeling when Justin Gaethje came over. I worked for what was known as the World Series of Fighting, where Gaethje was king. He was the main eventer. He was the champion. We went to his alma mater, Northern Colorado University. I'm just sharing for you. Like, there was big stuff. Went to Arizona, which is the state that he's from. Gaethje was the man over there, but a lot of people didn't watch him fight. It wasn't until he got to the UFC that people then saw him. So I'm looking, going, hey, this is a veteran. I think the same way about Michael Chandler. And if he can get himself, if he can get the interest of a Nate Diaz, he already succeeded in getting the interest of Conor McGregor, which is nearly impossible to do. But Chandler has a different set of skills. And if he wants to use those skills to go get super fights, or he wants to get the really big match, right, I'm okay with it. I think it's interesting. And I think for now, maybe for the first time in a year, Chandler can sigh a breath of relief. Conor would not subject himself to the rigors of the testing agencies. He just would not do that if he wasn't planning to come back and fight. Now, planning to do something and it actually happening, believe me, I understand. I'm not here to announce for you Conor's coming back, but I am here confidently to tell you that Conor wants to, believes he is, and Conor would accurately tell you that he is coming back.